Hi, it's Edward, back with another video. Please take a moment to click the thumbs up button below and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your support. Today I watched an interesting video on the Scotty Kilmer channel titled, "America is About to Find Out. Car Prices Just Got Insane." I'll include a link to the video in the description below. I encourage you to check it out. According to Scotty Kilmer, 1 in 4 trade-ins in America have negative equity. Can you imagine? Think about all of your friends, coworkers, neighbors, family members. 1 in 4 of them likely have negative equity in their vehicles. This is a terrible situation to be in. If for some reason you need to trade your vehicle in on another car, well, you may have to roll over that negative equity to the new loan. So you're going to be in even a worse financial situation. You may have to stretch out the payments to 72 months, 84 months, or 96 months, and you might get killed on interest. A lot of people are potentially sacrificing their future financial security by taking out these big vehicle loans. Have you ever visited Walmart or Target or Kohl's and seen these old gray-haired people working there? Some of those people may have those jobs because they want to remain active and get out of the house. However, I suspect some of those people have little to no retirement savings, and they can't survive on Social Security alone. Life in this country has simply gotten too expensive. They have to keep working into their 70s, 80s, and beyond. Some people may have made poor financial choices when they were younger, and some of those poor financial choices may have involved a vehicle purchase. When you purchase an expensive new vehicle and you have a large payment, it can really limit what you are able to do financially. You may not have enough money left over each month to allocate towards retirement. I don't think people should sacrifice their future financial security just to have a new car. The new car smell is simply not worth it. After the new car smell fades, the payment remains. And for a lot of people, that can become quite painful every month. Getting back to the Scotty Kilmer video, he said, the average new car in America costs $48,799. Can you imagine paying that amount of money for a new vehicle? Then you're going to have to pay a lot of sales tax on that vehicle. The registration cost is going to be high, and you are certainly going to pay a lot of money for insurance. These insurance companies realize modern vehicles are high tech. If you are involved in even a minor accident, it could be very expensive to make repairs. It is not cheap to insure a lot of these new expensive vehicles. I like my 2004 Toyota Camry that I'm sitting in today. My insurance is very inexpensive, and I have full coverage, and I have a zero deductible. Getting back to the Scotty Kilmer video, he said, the average amount owed in negative equity is $6,754. My friends, that's a lot of negative equity to have in a vehicle. That's the average. I'd really like to know what the median is. I only paid $3,500 for this 2004 Toyota Camry over a decade ago. I can't believe that some people have $6,754 in negative equity. My 2004 Toyota Camry that I paid $3,500 for had approximately 185,000 miles on the odometer. Some of my friends said I was stupid for paying that amount of money for a car with high miles. But it was a one-owner, always serviced at the Toyota dealership since it was new, and it had no accident history. Felt like I was making a good purchase. And the car today has 439,000 miles on the odometer, and it's still going strong, and everything works. All of the power features work. The air conditioning still blows ice cold. It's a great car. It's incredibly reliable. And I was able to get a big check from my insurance company about 6 months into owning the vehicle. There was a hailstorm. The adjuster came out, looked at the damage, and said, it's going to take about $3,500 to repair that damage. Your vehicle is paid off. Here's a check. You can keep the money if you choose not to get the damage repaired, or you can get it repaired. I kept the check. So basically, I got this vehicle for free. For me, buying a good quality used vehicle is far better than buying the average new vehicle that costs $48,799 in 2025. A lot of people buy these expensive cars, and depending on what make and model they buy, well, it could depreciate quickly. That's why some people find themselves having $6,754 in negative equity. Some people also stretch out those vehicle payments far too long, and that's why they end up in a negative equity situation. This can really limit what you do in your life. Let's say you lose your job and you can no longer afford the large vehicle payment on a car that you paid close to $50,000 for. Well, you can't take it down to CarMax and sell it because you have $6,754 in negative equity. Most people don't have that kind of cash laying around to be able to unload that car. Well, what happens in that situation if you can't afford your car payment because you lost your job? Unemployment checks aren't really large. And as you know, a lot of Americans have no emergency fund. This is why some vehicles get repossessed. Getting back to the Scotty Kilmer video, he said, 1/3 of people underwater owe between $5,000 to $10,000 in debt in a car, and 7% owe more than $15,000. What are some Americans thinking? I simply don't know. I think some folks walk in to a fancy car dealership. They're greeted by someone who's professional. That person smiles at them, asks if they can get them something to drink. Maybe they sit down in a nice office. There's a friendly salesperson. They're more than happy to take the customer on a test drive of whatever they're interested in. They talk with them about how affordable the monthly payment is going to be. And some people believe these car salesmen actually have their best interests in mind. And I'm afraid some folks don't understand car salesmen, they need to sell cars in order to earn commissions to pay their bills. They're not your friend. They want to sell cars. They don't want to help you get the best deal. In fact, sometimes it's quite the opposite. I sold cars when I was in graduate school. We sold new and pre-owned cars. We could make the most money selling pre-owned cars. If we could try to sell a pre-owned car for close to what we were asking for it, we would make a larger commission. If the customer negotiated the price down, we made a smaller commission. A lot of car salesmen are out to make as much money as they can. Sometimes people overpay for vehicles and they don't realize what they're doing, and they end up in a terrible negative equity position. And that's truly tragic. Now, Scotty Kilmer recommends leasing so you don't get into a negative equity position. For some people, that might make sense. But if you drive a lot, you really better think twice. If you end up going over the miles, you could end up owing the manufacturer a lot of money. Some people turn in a lease and they didn't keep the vehicle clean. They got a lot of door dings and scratches or dents. And then they also owe money for those damages. You need to be really careful when leasing a vehicle, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just some guy on YouTube. Now, Scotty also talked about how Mazda is now installing screens for the first time in their CX5. He said, Mazda believes you should have your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. Well, they're kind of getting away from that line of thinking by installing these screens in the new CX5. Scotty talked about how you can be distracted trying to figure out how to adjust something like a climate control setting on a screen. And I agree with him. In my 2004 Toyota Camry, it's intuitive to simply grab the dial and twist it to the right to increase the air circulation in my vehicle. If I want to adjust the air conditioning setting and I want to make it a little warmer in the vehicle, I simply turn a dial a little bit. I don't have to look through a menu on a screen. Now I realize some modern vehicles have voice control, and that's great. But I also don't want a screen because they're incredibly expensive to replace when something goes wrong. And I spoke with a Chevrolet mechanic recently who was telling me one of the jobs that he does frequently is replace screens in vehicles. He said a lot of these screens go bad because of extreme temperatures, extreme heat, or extreme cold. He said some of the screens have some type of gel in them. I want no part of that. I like the dials. I'd like to have dials that are actually connected to a lever so I don't have to worry about actuators that go bad, which are buried deep in the dash. It's not easy to tear a dashboard apart to get to an actuator because some plastic gear broke off it. Sometimes mechanics have to invest a tremendous amount of time to disassemble a dash. And sometimes the plastic is brittle and they end up breaking something else when doing that. I once watched a video on YouTube about the Ford Panther platform vehicles and how some of those actuators go bad deep in the dash. And it can take over 10 hours of labor to disassemble one of those dashboards to get to one of these actuators that failed. Now you might wonder, what's it matter? Well, do you want your vehicle stuck on defrost where the air is only blowing up toward the windshield? Or would you like the air blowing out toward you on a hot summer day? You're probably going to have to get your actuator replaced if it fails. When you have these modern high-tech vehicles that have screens and lots of actuators, you're going to have problems at some point, and those problems could be very expensive. Getting back to the Scotty Kilmer video, he said people in the automotive industry are sheep. What he means is that one manufacturer wants to follow what another manufacturer is doing. I don't think this is a good practice. Just because one manufacturer is installing expensive screens in all their vehicles doesn't mean you need to do that. Stand out from the crowd. I'd like to see manufacturers not have these screens. Stick with basic dials and basic buttons that are tactile. Stick with something that is reliable. I don't think everyone wants those screens. I realize some people, they want to be able to interface with the screen to be able to stream music, or they want to have GPS. There are people right now who don't want to buy older vehicles that have a GPS system because that dinky old style screen just looks really outdated. If I were buying something like an older Lexus LS430, I would not want the version that had the screen. I would want to buy an older LS430 that had no screen. It just looks better. Plus, I don't want to have a screen with all of the different controls on it. Again, something fails in that, it's not going to be cheap to fix. I'm curious what you folks think about all this. Are you surprised by how many people have negative equity in their vehicles? Do you know people who have a lot of negative equity in their vehicles? If so, tell me about it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. I want to extend a special thanks to everyone who has subscribed to this channel. I want to also thank all of my channel members. If you would like to become a channel member, there is a link in the description beneath this video. You can read more about the different membership levels. Please also check out some of the great books I suggest you consider reading in the description below. I've included Amazon affiliate links to these books. As an Amazon associate, I earn from qualifying purchases. Stay healthy and wealthy, I'll see everyone in the next video.